Good morning.
It has been a struggle and a half over here.
Mm.
I was telling you just before we started recording that I want to go back in time and kick past me's butt
hmm
because she convinced herself last night that I only needed 5 hours sleep.
It's a bad
And
choice.
so I didn't go to bed until like 1 a.m. and then woke up and was just like, oh, I can just quickly fix my hair and put on a little makeup and I've already got my clothes laid out. This is fine. And then, like, terrible hair day, nothing's going right. I realized I didn't have my computer as set up as I thought I did. It's been a whole thing over here. But how are you this morning?
Well, as you can tell, I'm not home.
Mhm.
I am at one of my favorite coffee shops having a dirty chai tea latte. And the reason is I'm trying to work out more often. And so my thought was if I come in and I record in town, then I can go straight to working out. And Chris doesn't have any patients until later this morning. So I've got a little bit of time wiggle. So hopefully this helps me actually work out because now I'm
Look
in
at
town
you.
and I don't have an excuse to not go lift heavy things. Um, because I'm still learning. And so I feel like I need to use the machines at Planet Fitness for a while I'm still learning and building muscle before I try to
Mhm.
take a bunch of this stuff home. Like I prefer to work out at home. And we've got quite a lot of free weights at home, but I don't trust myself to not hurt myself. And if I use the machines, I'm less likely to hurt myself. So
Yes.
that's what I'm doing this morning. And I slept in a little bit, but I still got here in good time. Had enough
Good.
time to have a cinnamon roll. That's
Yes.
awesome.
As we call each other, both of us have food in our mouths.
Do I mean who else better to eat my breakfast with? Because we both
Exactly.
enjoy our breakfast, and so it made
Yeah.
sense. It made sense.
Speaking of things we both enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
we both enjoy the tea.
All the
And
tea,
not just
all the tea.
tea,
Mm-hmm.
but
We do enjoy that too, but we enjoy spilling the tea as well.
yes. So today we are going to be talking about reality TV, and I'm so excited. But I do because this is so much, and I always have notes. I will probably be reading my notes more during this
Mm-hmm.
episode than most other episodes because, like,
Well, there's just so much information to cover on just the one family. We're talking about
yeah,
17 seasons.
17 seasons, a husband, 4 wives, and 18 children.
Crazy. Oh, I have a question for you, and I don't know if you've gotten this
Yes.
answered, and I can wait until we get to that part. But I'm wondering, okay, so for people who don't know what we're talking about, I guess we should tell them what we're talking about to start
Yes.
with because we haven't even introduced what we're doing. Um, but remind me, I have a question about the number of children.
Okay. Gotcha. So I have always loved reality TV ever since it became a thing. I was
Mm-hmm.
very, very invested very early on, especially with TLC. And I was a big fan of John and Kate Plus 8 when it first came out. Little People Big World was a big hit.
I think we're just
Um,
nosy, aren't we? Like we just
yes.
really want to know. Chris
Yeah.
accuses me of being nosy all the time. He's like, "You're just being nosy. Quit it."
Well, my absolute biggest, longest obsession has been the Brown family. And that's honestly how it started out. Like, how in the world did these two people manage um 2 8-year-olds and 8 2-year-olds, or 2 6-year-olds and 6 2-year-olds was how John and Kate was when
Mm-hmm.
they premiered. And I was like, how do they do that? And then it was Little People Big World. Oh, I want to educate myself on one, how do you talk about little people, and what do I need to do to like be helpful?
Mm-hmm.
And then the Brown family, like, what is this religion? I've always been very interested in understanding other religions to
Mhm.
know, like, how
Especially
to
when it's
not be
connected to
offensive.
Christianity, especially when it's
Yeah,
claimed to be Christian.
yeah. So I became very obsessed with the Brown family from Sister Wives very early. I think I started watching when it was on Netflix, y'all, like 2 or 3 seasons in.
Mhm.
Um, so talking about the religion and the wives,
Mhm.
I started watching, like I said, about 2 or 3 seasons in. I have now seen every episode at least once. And for those of you who don't know about them, I'll give you just general background. Cody Brown and his wives are all members of the Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, or FLDS. And so, like, Mormon, but extremist Mormon.
Right. This isn't
Uh,
like not all Mormons are this way.
yeah, exactly. He first married a woman named Mary, and then a few years later, he married Mary's sister-in-law, ex-sister-in-law. So, Janelle. Janelle was married to Mary's brother and got a divorce. And then
I don't
she
think I
marries
knew
Cody.
that.
Yeah.
I knew that Janelle's parents and Cody's parents were weirdly connected, right? Because didn't Cody's dad eventually marry Janelle's mom?
And Christine's.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
which is weird. I'm sorry.
nobody
That is bothers me a lot.
nobody in their family was in Janelle's family were polygamous,
Mhm.
but her sister-in-law was. And then her brother didn't want to practice, or her husband didn't want to practice it. So then when they get a divorce, she marries Cody. And then about a year later, Cody marries Christine, who is like royalty in the FLDS church. And then after a little while, like Christine's dad died, I think, and Cody's dad, who practiced polygamy, married her. And then Janelle's mom was just like all alone in life and very interested. And then she married Cody's dad. And so
Okay.
they are step siblings who
Hmm.
are married to each other. It's weird.
Hmm.
It's weird.
Hmm. But they weren't step siblings until after they were married,
Yeah.
which is also awkward. Like, I don't know.
But for 15 years, it was the four of them. And then, of course, their children. But right as they were getting their own reality show, Cody starts coding. Cody starts
That's a
courting.
good term for the things he does is coding. Like,
Yes. A fourth wife named Robin.
dun
So,
dun dun.
yeah, the children. You said you had a question about the children.
So when they get married, Robin already has 2 or 3 kids.
3 kids.
Did those kids count in his total?
They do now.
Did he adopt them?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious if they counted in his total because that you haven't got to that part yet, but I was just wondering if they count.
Yeah. Um, from what I understand about FLDS, which is what Diana's saying with total, they believe that you need at least 3 wives and at least 18 children in order to get into the highest portion of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
If you're called into polygamy. So,
Okay, so I just had another question. What about
yes,
the wives getting into heaven?
yes, they do too. As long as
If
the
they're part
husband,
of that,
yes, as long as their husband has 3 wives and 18 children,
so that's the motivation.
yeah, they will
Okay.
all be with him in
Because
heaven.
I always thought, what if we don't get in, but he gets in? What's the point? Like, why
Yeah.
would I participate in that?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
As long as they are part of his totals, they count.
Okay.
Yeah. So this one I want to be very, very respectful about. And so if I make a mistake, I am so, so sorry. Mary had one child who is now called Leon.
Mhm.
At birth, Leon was assigned female and was called oh, I forgot their name.
I used to know too, and I can't remember right now.
Well, look at that.
Well, because I haven't been involved in so long that I
Yeah.
didn't realize that they were now Leon.
Yeah. But they go by they them pronouns and have changed their name to Leon. So look at that. That works out great. I may not have as many issues remembering their name. But Mary had one child called Leon, and then she started to struggle with infertility.
Mhm.
I think she's gotten pregnant a couple of other times, had miscarriages every time, and has really, really struggled with that.
Mhm.
Janelle had 6 children, not in this particular order. I wanted to try to get them in order and then just gave up. But Janelle has 6 children: Logan, Maddie, Savannah, Gabriel, Garrison, and Hunter. Christine had 6 children. Again, not in this order: Aspen, McKelty, Truly, Gwendolyn, Peyton, and Isabel. And every wife is expected to have 6 children in order for them to make it into that part of heaven. So Mary's struggle with infertility was really throwing off their number game.
Well, and it explains even more why you watch her struggle so much in the shows, because it's got a spiritual connotation for her. It's not, I mean, like, infertility sucks no matter what. Like, without throwing in the idea of I'm not going to get into heaven if I don't have enough kids.
Not
Like,
only am I not getting in, I'm going to
I'm
prevent
keeping
my
everybody
husband and
else.
my
Mhm.
sister wives out.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Well, and like there's no grace there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no grace in that formula at all.
So
That explains a lot, though. Like, it, that was just a huge burden on her, and you can see it whenever you watch any of the episodes. You can see that
yeah.
that's a huge burden on her.
Well, Mary is the first wife and the legal wife. And therefore, she is the head wife. They say on the show, like, oh, there isn't a head wife. We don't do that. We don't.
She is.
She is.
She is. And she's
Because
also the reason that he got other wives, because she had to approve them. Like, it's been
yes,
very clear that she approved all the other wives.
yes, husband in polygamy cannot court a woman on his own. The head wife has to handpick them and say, I want you to court them. And so she has handpicked the other 3 wives.
Mhm.
Robin being obviously the latest. And it was around the time that she was getting to the age where you realize she's not
gonna have
having
any more
5
kids.
more kids. And so we bring Robin in, and she is a divorced woman who already has 3 kids with her first husband and is young enough to have more children. So she has Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna.
Mhm.
And then after she married Cody, she had Solomon and Ariana, or Ari. And so that brought him up to his 18 kids. Janelle has 6, Christine has 6, Robin has 5, and Mary has one.
I hmm, listening to um what's her name? She's got her own
Gwendolyn?
YouTube. Gwendolyn.
Gwendolyn?
Listening to Gwendolyn the other night, like the moms obviously love their kids. Like they're very
Yes.
invested. They love all the kids. Like you can tell that each of the moms is invested in all of the kids, even though their relationships aren't always great as you watch through the shows. There's conflicts, but all of the moms care about all of the kids. But Gwendolyn was talking about struggling with seeing how good Cody is with Robin's
Saul and Ari.
youngest kids and how she doesn't have those memories for herself.
Hmm.
And it would be very difficult in her situation not to feel like I was just a number for my dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you lay it all out like that, it just really feels like they're just a number for their dad.
Oh, yeah. Especially when you see the way that he reacts to them as they get older.
Mm-hmm. He
And
treats them not good. He does not treat
yeah.
them well, especially
No.
when they get to the age where they're supposed to leave the nest and he feels like they're a burden point.
Hmm.
Not a parent relationship anymore at all. It's a get out, you're a burden now relationship.
And he talks about how, like, oh, my younger kids need me. The older kids don't. The older
Which is
kids
not
need to
true.
be independent.
Which is not
But
true.
when you listen to Gwendolyn talk and you listen to who's the other daughter that has the show with her husband,
You told me and I forgot.
McKelty. When you listen to McKelty and Gwendolyn discuss like their family situation, you realize that no, it's not necessarily that he truly believes like the younger kids need him and the older kids don't. It's because he feels like a failure that the older kids aren't in polygamy and he wants to focus on the younger kids to make sure someone follows his belief system so he doesn't feel like a failure anymore.
Well, and like he didn't focus on them when they were younger.
Mm-hmm.
The older kids, like he didn't like you can tell from McKelty and from you just told me her name, Gwendolyn,
Gwendolyn?
that he wasn't this way when they were younger. Like
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't invested in them, he wasn't paying attention to them. And granted, he had a lot of people to help support financially, but he wasn't doing that alone. Like you can tell from the beginning, Janelle has been helping with the financial stuff all along.
Oh, well, financial stuff is starting to come out actually now that the kids are old enough to talk. I don't remember if I have this in my notes or not, but McKelty was the first one to start talking about it. Like, I mention it later, but polygamy is illegal in Utah. But really, it is only illegal if you are also committing another crime. And typically, the other crime is fraud. And so you lie about your income to get certain benefits like food stamps.
Mm-hmm. I
And
would have figured
all
the
of,
other crime would have been like neglect or child abuse,
yeah, sometimes. Um, but a
or at
lot of
least
times,
claims of it. I'm not trying to make it out like LDS is abusive, but like at least claims of it.
yeah. But they talked about how like all of the other moms or all of the moms were on food stamps, which is it's fine. Like my gosh, my mom was on food stamps when I was born. I'm pretty sure
We spent several
that
years on
happens.
food stamps.
Like that's not a big deal. But the issue is that they were lying about how much income they actually had because they could only count the mom's income and not dad's. And then McKelty started saying that when she was little, they would eat their grandparents owned a bakery and sometimes their dinner was days old bread and they would just pull the moldy parts off and eat that for dinner. Or they would have hot dogs one night and the next night they would have what's called hot dog soup. And I never heard about this before, where you save the water you boiled your hot dogs in and you warm it back up the next day and you feed your kids the water.
Sometimes you put stuff in it, but because of Chris, I've heard of it.
But
I've not had to
that
experience it, but I've heard of it.
that's just wild. And then to see like Saul and Ari living in this house that's almost $1 million, that would be hard.
It wouldn't be so hard if you had felt wanted
Hmm.
and
And
you had
love.
felt like your parents were just doing the best they could and they're still doing the best they could, but now they're older and they have more means and so they're able to do better for this group of kids, and you felt like you were still wanted and you were still supported. If they
Yeah.
felt like they were still wanted and still being supported and still welcome in the home, I don't think it'd be nearly as hard to see Saul and Ari doing good because they do consider them siblings. And you
They do.
want what's good for your siblings. But if
Hmm.
you don't feel wanted anymore and you didn't feel like you were wanted then, even that you were just a number, then yeah, it's going to be hard.
Yeah. I guess I'm going to kind of go back. I'm going to backpedal
Yeah,
a
I
little
know.
bit,
I kind of
get
got
back,
us
caught
ahead.
back up.
Sorry.
You're good.
I'm
But
like,
the
let's just go.
the location is very important. So when we first meet the Brown family, they are living in a compound in Utah. So when I say compound, all three wives lived in basically what was an apartment complex,
Mhm.
and Robin just lived close by in her own home. And we see the show like season 2. Season 1, they're talking about like, oh, this is illegal. Season 2, they're talking about being ran out of Utah.
They make it very dramatic.
We know now that this isn't actually what was happening.
Blows my
Because,
mind.
like I said, polygamy in Utah isn't, it's illegal, but it's not actually prosecuted unless there is another law being broken. And in their case, their law being broken was there is another law on the books that says you cannot brag about or flaunt another, like breaking another law. And there was some, like the state DA and their county attorneys were doing an investigation into the Brown family. Like that was correct and factual. But by the time the show started, they had a 6-month break in doing anything.
Hmm.
And that would indicate no one was actually going to prosecute.
Nobody really cared.
And that gave a lot of extra tax money to the state of Utah. So, like, why would you?
Why would you spend tax money on this? Hmm.
Well, like, you have when a production company comes into your state, unless your state offers like tax breaks, like Kentucky does now.
Hmm.
North Carolina was kind of known for their production tax breaks for years and years and years.
Which is why there's so many movies made there.
Yes. Like you have to pay these unreal taxes. And so if you have an ongoing show that's a hit,
Hmm.
why would you run them off and
Right.
lose out on that money? But there was drama. And you see that they are packing up quickly and they fled to Las Vegas
Hmm.
in the middle of the
So
night.
surely the filming crew knew that that was fabricated, right?
Probably.
I
And
would
like
think.
Gwendolyn has let it slip a couple
And
of
the
times.
producers
Like,
had to know that was fabricated.
yeah. Gwendolyn has let it slip a couple of times that there are things that like the producers are like, oh, you go stand over here and let's
Hmm.
get the shot like this. Or hey, can you say this or can you cry about this
Hmm.
at this point? And she's like, as we get older, the older kids are like, no, if you're gonna script this, we're not gonna be a part of it.
Hmm. Well, and
But
is this a reality TV show or not? Because that's not
yeah,
real.
she said, while this is our lives, there are, of course, going to be some dramatized parts. Um,
Because it's
but
TV.
yeah, They fled to Las Vegas and they claimed that it was a more tolerant city. In reality, it is harsher on polygamy.
Mm-hmm.
They don't discuss it much, but one of the family members had a lot of family in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Robin's dad, one of her other moms, and some of her siblings lived in Vegas. She had a niece that lived in Vegas. And after several years there, Cody presents to his wives that the real estate market is in a really good position for selling
Mm-hmm.
and that he thinks they should move again, but where on earth to? And they eventually bought some property on a piece of land called Coyote Pass in Flagstaff, Arizona. And that kind of catches us up to this last season.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot more has came out about that, and that's why location is so stinking important. This season
Mm-hmm.
17, everything has exploded
Mm-hmm. If
in
you like
November.
drama, this is the season to watch.
Yes, this has been the biggest season of Sister Wives
Also,
ever.
FYI, I don't have a ton of guilty pleasures, but this is totally one of my guilty pleasures because I'm so nosy. Like, I love, like, what's happening? What's going on? What's happening?
Yeah.
And like, it's so. Before we jump in on this, I was introduced to Sister Wives. I think it was like a morning show or an interview at one point where all three of them went on and they were like, we want to show that we're not terrible people. Like, and we chose this. So many people think that the women in a polygamous marriage didn't choose it. And I think that's true. There's got to be some women who didn't choose it. But they're like, there are people who do choose it and want it and think it's a good lifestyle. And I remember that being so intriguing because I'm like, honestly, I can understand why you would want to share the responsibility of raising your kids and taking
Mhm.
care of your house and taking care of your property and parenting. Like, that is appealing. But the idea of sharing my husband was never appealing to me. Like,
Yeah.
not at all. Nothing about that was fun. And so, like, I've thought before, like, man, it would be really cool if we had kind of like a big property compound and multiple houses where you had a built-in community and someone who I felt completely safe saying, hey, go see your aunt Amanda, go see, like your aunt over here, go see your aunt over here. And or we just set up a schedule and the kids rotate houses and we rotate like, okay, we're going to work on your garden this day and we're going to do, someone's going to take care of the cows, someone's going to work outside the home. I love that idea. I love the idea of that kind of community. And I can see where if you were someone who is in rough circumstances and you did not have support, where that would be exceptionally appealing
Mhm.
to have that kind of support in that kind of community. And even me, I'm not in rough circumstances. The idea of having that kind of support in that kind of community is really appealing. But not the idea of sharing my husband. I'm pretty
Yeah.
selfish about him, to be honest. Like, I want all of his attention and all of his time, and that would never go over well. So it was just like this fascination for me of, okay, I've never heard it presented this way of women
Mhm.
choosing to be in this relationship. And why would you choose it? Because I'm just curious, like, why would you choose? Like they seem very intelligent. They're very, well spoken. All of the moms are very well
Mhm.
spoken. They present good arguments for things. Why would you choose this? So that's what got me hooked on them. Just like for prefacing, like I remember getting
Yeah.
into it that way. And still sometimes I'm like, okay, but why Cody?
Yeah.
Like the other women, they're cool. I could be friends with some of them. Like they are neat women.
Some of them.
They have great kids. Some of them. And there's some of them I would not get along with very well, just being honest.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we would click. But there's some of
Yeah.
them I could be friends with. And I can understand how they can make it work. Like you need different personalities to make something like that work. would never share that man. Like, I would never be with that man. So it just blew my
Yeah.
mind that there were 4 women who wanted to be with that man.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. That was my little
No.
side trail before we jump into this season, because I was like, and they made it look so pretty at first. They
Mhm.
really do. They make it look
It's
so
so
pretty
fun.
and so natural. And so, well, yeah, of course you'd want to share that. Like, why wouldn't you want
Yeah.
to share a family that way and be together and have all your kids be friends? Like, yeah.
Yeah. And
Anyway.
for several years, several seasons, almost all of the seasons,
Hmm.
you see these 4 strong, powerful, mostly independent women.
Hmm. Oh, yeah, they are mostly independent because they have to be.
Yeah, who are like, we can make our own decisions
Hmm.
and we can, do our own thing. And we
We're
only
in
have to
charge of
deal
our
with
own
the
schedules.
husband.
Hmm.
Yeah, we only have to deal with the husband once every 4 days, if that.
Hmm.
But we still get all the benefits
Well, and
of
more
having a
benefits because
huge
you've got a
family.
built-in community.
Yeah. So, like, it seemed really cool. But then, season 17, everything just implodes on itself. So, November 2021, Christine announced that she had left Cody.
And this happens
And it,
before we see what happened in the actual television series.
yes, it was shocking. No one really saw it coming.
Well, because she's the most
Then,
family oriented of anybody.
yeah, then we see season 17, and it showed Christine leaving, and it shows fractures in the other relationships that we really hadn't seen before.
Mhm.
So
It also
during the
shows part of
season,
what led up to Christine leaving, which was the whole
yes,
2020 mess.
yes. But that was a little bit, that was mostly season 16 was the
Hmm.
COVID drama.
Hmm.
Season 17 started with Cody finding his stuff in boxes in her garage.
Nice.
Um, but during the season 17 tell all, we learn that Janelle has left Cody. And after the tell all, we get information that Mary left Cody during filming of the tell all episode.
How did that
So
happen? How did they not capture that?
they kind of did.
Okay.
So
I need to
during the
go
tell
back and see this.
yes, during the tell all, you see different clips. Like they've always done this. They just do it a little differently since COVID. And usually it was the whole family watching clips together. Now it's each individual person being interviewed at a different day at a different time, watching these clips alone. And you see Cody talking about, I don't feel married to Mary anymore. I don't love her. We're just family and she has to
He's
stick
been saying
around
that for years.
for years. Yeah.
He's been
And she,
dismissive of her for years.
yeah. And he's like, well, if she wanted to go off and marry somebody else, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I wouldn't stop it. I would applaud her. I would support her. She would have my blessing. And you see her watch that and you see her like, oh, he's left me. And I'm just paying his way. I'm giving this man who doesn't consider himself married to me my money. For what? And so in that interview, the woman who's interviewing her, Suki, said something about it. And she's like, well, now I see how he really feels. And this is very eye-opening for me.
Hmm.
She left him that night.
Good for her. I'm sorry, I never understood why Mary was sticking around. I assumed it was because of the other ladies, but they haven't, like, you've seen Mary and Cody drama since
Half the season,
Vegas.
half the series at this point. Yeah.
Oh yeah, since Vegas. Like, it really comes out in Vegas where you
Yeah.
see, and they were having trouble before Vegas. But
Yeah,
like it's been, gosh, what, 8 years
at
that they've
least.
been having trouble. Like I never understood why Mary stuck around. And
So,
until you said that, I thought it was just because she didn't have the guts to be the first one to leave, that she felt
mm,
responsible to the family and she didn't have the guts because she's not been living with him since Vegas.
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, she's not been living with him since Vegas. Like they've
Mhm.
sort of lived together when they had that little loop of houses in
Yeah.
Vegas, but since they
But he
left
didn't
there,
spend the
she's
night
had,
there.
well, and she's had her own house away from the family in a completely different state for years
Hmm.
and years now. And she's not actually around physically the family half the time. Like
Yeah.
she's in her own little world. I never
She stuck
understood why she
around
was
just
still with
for
him.
her religion. Like her religion
Yeah.
said she had to.
Gosh.
And just to like give background for Mary and what we're talking about with this, when they were in Vegas, it's been almost 10 years now. Mary entered into an emotional affair with someone she met online.
Hmm.
And they decide to meet up. But there was always like the runaround, and she's not meeting this man she's in love with. She's meeting this other person that's like his best friend. And then you find out she's been catfished.
Hmm.
And this man never existed.
Hmm.
It's this woman who is
Hmm.
still to this day obsessed with Mary and
And has
talks
been
about her
leading
all
her
the
on.
time. And it would have become physical had they actually met with each other.
And had it been a man,
Yeah, but she had to come clean and tell the family like what's been going on because
it was
she
going to go public.
was going public and trying to take their money. And the family was like, "We love you. We don't understand why you're making this decision, but okay."
Well, everybody understood why she was making that decision because Cody had been neglecting her.
Yes. And
They felt
in
bad
later
for her, but
seasons,
everybody, all the wives knew that
yeah,
Cody was neglecting her.
I think we found out either this season or season before that they have not had an intimate relationship in 10 years.
Hmm. Well, they talk
They've
about
not
it
really
even when
spent
he's
time
in,
together.
even in Vegas when they were talking about the counseling that they've been going through, that him and her had not been intimate in a long time at that point.
Yeah,
That they had not been, and I don't just mean like physically, I mean like relationally, like communication wise, any of that stuff.
yeah. Well, something happened in this season that has never happened before. The children are now starting to capitalize on this show.
I don't blame them
So,
one little bit.
yeah, the oldest kid,
The
Logan,
money was made off of them. It's their turn to make some money off of it because they've never seen any of that money. I can guarantee you.
oh, they haven't. Never, ever, not a penny.
Hmm.
So,
It's
Logan
all
got
gone to
out as soon
Cody.
as he could.
Hmm.
And we know that during his wedding, the family didn't interact much with each other.
And Logan is Janelle's.
Janelle's oldest, yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Maddie almost got a reality show of her own, but then things fell through and she didn't want to raise her children in the spotlight that she'd had.
Don't blame her.
Leon has distanced themselves from the family, um, at least the adults. From what we're finding out from some of the kids, is they are still very, very involved with
Hmm.
their sibling relationships.
Yes, that's what it sounded like
Um,
with Gwendolyn, that she's still involved with most of her siblings.
yeah. They don't really talk with Leon doesn't really talk with their mom as much because of past traumas with the catfishing scandal. Um, a lot of stuff went on that they didn't talk about in the show, and some of the kids have talked about like in passing, but it's really like horrible things. Um,
Well, and there was a lot of struggle when Leon was trying to figure out who they are
yes.
on with Cody and with Mary. There was a lot of, I think, a lot of feelings of rejection there.
Mhm. But 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 as older children, we know
Yes.
that
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're good. We try to shut down. And we are Elsa with the whole conceal, don't feel, don't let it show. Like, it's
Mhm,
fine. Our
mhm,
family's fine. Our family is perfect. If it's not perfect, we're just going to shut
mhm,
up about it.
We don't talk about it.
But God bless these messy middle children that will do anything for attention, because that's where we have none other than Mr. Peyton Brown.
Mhm.
And he
I need to look
decides
up
to
some
get a
of his stuff.
TikTok.
I need to look
Yes,
up some of his stuff because I want to hear like honestly, I want to hear like the raw emotion stuff, and he's gonna give it.
he is hilarious. He makes t-shirts for stuff. He's 10 out of 10.
It's awesome.
But he decides to get TikTok and air out laundry. And what he has to say has led to interviews. Well, then Gwendolyn saw Peyton being Peyton, and she's like, okay, well, I don't like him. They genuinely hate each other. They don't get along. There are a lot of allegations between the two of them. And she says, don't listen to anything he has to say. I'll tell you what really happened. And so she gets a YouTube channel and a Patreon. Well, after the two of them like have this back and forth going, Mykelti and her husband start their own Patreon to tell Cody's side of things.
Nobody wants to hear Cody's side. I'm sorry.
The, the fact that Mykelti gets along with everybody in the family is suspicious.
How does she get along with everybody? That doesn't make sense. You don't ever get along with everybody.
It's because she plays every side. And
Mm.
if you watch any of her Patreon stuff, like that's what she does. Is she plays every side. So yeah, she will tell you about the hot dog soup that she had to eat. She'll tell you about the stale moldy bread that she had to eat. But then she's also going to be like, but you don't understand. My daddy was just trying to make us, like, he was trying to get us to a better place. No, your dad was driving around in a sports car
Mm-hmm.
while you suffered. He
Mm-hmm.
made the decision not to get a job and not to support this family that he's decided he has to get into heaven
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't care about you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a whole other thing. So now we are learning things that we never knew because these kids are talking.
Mm-hmm.
So the most shocking news for me was, how did they end up in Flagstaff?
Mm-hmm.
Remember, it was just the
Pressure,
time is
pressure, pressure.
right. We have to move. I don't care what you think.
Mm-hmm.
All of the wives, especially Robin, was like, no, we want a place for our kids to come back. No, we're not moving. We don't want to move. And he says, I'm the head of the household. Yes, we are. Now we've just got to figure out, where in the world are we moving to? Robin's oldest son, Dave, was applying for college at the time. His top choice was the University of Arizona in Flagstaff. He was given 3 months to decide. Cody gave the family 3 months to find a new place to live. There was an episode where the two oldest daughters, Aurora and Brianna, on Robin's side, got a birthday trip. And the girls in the interview talk about how when they left, they were crying and upset. But when they got to Arizona, it was a really nice place and they really enjoyed it and they loved it. Why would you be crying and upset over it?
You cut out.
Oh, why would you be crying and upset over your own birthday trip at that point? Like, either they didn't get a choice in where they went, or they were upset and they knew this is not a birthday trip. This is manipulation. This is us going to where we have to go. But then there were a couple of other trips coming up. And Cody was clearly, like, he was even trying to hide it, manipulating the other wives into loving Flagstaff. And he would take wives to other cities that he didn't want to move to and pick fights so they wouldn't like it. He would then take them on like these dream dates and all of this to the city that he says he likes so much. Also, that Robin could be closer to her oldest son. And it just so happens they make the announcement the week that Dayton had to give a final answer to the University of Arizona.
I think what bothered me was like it wasn't just manipulation on his part, it was manipulation on her part too. Like there was
Mhm.
mutual deception going on there.
Yeah.
Like highly
Because she's
planned.
clearly lying too.
It's highly planned.
Yeah. Gabriel and Garrison were treated horribly by their dad because they would not move out of his home during COVID when they turned 18. They both had girlfriends, they both had jobs, and Cody said you have to quit your job and you're not allowed to see your girlfriend because of COVID-19. And they had the most ridiculous COVID rules. Like, I've heard of a lot of people doing a lot of weird things during COVID. Like, there was somebody that I know that made a complete like spacesuit to go to the grocery store and to go to work, and it was wild. It was like a beekeeper suit.
Wow.
But like not mesh, it was plastic. It was wild looking.
I'm sorry, that sounds horrible. Like,
Yeah. But
I have opinions. I have so many opinions, and they are not for public consumption.
and like this wasn't just for the first like couple of weeks of COVID when everybody was so scared. This went on for like a year. But like Cody and Robin would talk about leaving groceries outside. Like they just wouldn't get cold groceries. They would leave their groceries outside and just not get things like eggs and milk for years because they had to leave their groceries outside for so long. They had to leave their mail. They sanitized their mail as soon as it came in and still left it sitting outside for 48 hours. And like the kids weren't allowed to have a job.
Well, they weren't allowed to see anybody else who was in contact with someone outside the family. Like if you had any contact with someone outside the family, then they weren't letting you see their own family. Like they weren't letting them interact with their own family.
Yeah, they couldn't, even though everyone was quarantining and everyone was following CDC guidelines. Like Janelle's kids weren't supposed to see Christine's kids, and nobody saw Mary for years, like 2 years. Nobody saw Robin's kids for years. But the season 17, there was one episode I cried so hard. It was one of the last couple of episodes. Gwendolyn ends up talking about it, and she's just like, why would this happen? Cody and Robin eventually got COVID because at this point, almost everybody's had it at least once.
You're going to get it. There's no way you're going to avoid it.
Yeah, at least not forever. Cody and Robin get COVID. Cody calls Gabe to be like, hey, I have this. What did you do to get better? Like, do you have any suggestions? And Gabe's doing an interview and he's crying so hard. And he says, my dad called me on my birthday. And I realized, like, oh, dad's calling me on my birthday. Like, oh my gosh, we haven't talked in months, but dad's calling me. And he answers and he's like, what do I do for COVID? And Gabe tells him, like, this is what I did. This is what I would suggest. This is what people that I'm friends with have suggested that helped them. And then he ended the call. Cody ended the call. And Gabriel has not spoken to him since. And he said that was the last time I heard my dad's voice, and I will never hear it again. And my heart just broke. And Cody has said some really inappropriate things about them since then. But the biggest thing of this was they would not move out of the house when they turned 18. Do you know where Dayton lives?
In the house. Oh no, wait, on the like in a
In,
camper or something, right?
in an RV attached to Robin's house.
That they paid for.
Aurora, who is in college, like 1920, lives in the basement.
Mhm. Oh yeah, the double standards are everywhere.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Speaking of that house, it is just shy of $1 million. Meanwhile, the other wives are renting their homes.
Mhm.
And had she got a smaller, less expensive house, they could have all paid off the land very quickly
Mhm.
and been able to build. And as of this week, we were not sure if they were going to be able to pay the house off because they signed a paper that they could not build until everything was paid off on any of the properties.
Why would you sign something like that?
They got a better deal that way. And they thought, like, oh, well, we'll be able to pay this off in no time.
But they
And
went ahead and built Robin's house anyway?
no, they didn't build it. They bought it.
Oh, so she's not on the same property.
No, nobody's on the property yet because it just got paid off like 3 days ago. We were not sure if they were going to be able to do it, but they did it.
After all the other wives left.
Yes. Robin's name is not on any of the deeds.
How?
The only wife on any of the deeds is Janelle.
Oh, please tell me Janelle's making that out from underneath of them. I am
So
just that petty right now. Because they have
here,
treated her so badly.
here's what we think has happened. We found out during season 17, Janelle is
With good reason.
she still believes in this religion. She still has her faith. She doesn't want to divorce Cody. She just doesn't want to be married to him anymore. So she's just like doing her own thing and feels like spiritually she's still married to him. Kind of like the situation that him and Mary had for years. That's how she wants to finish living her life. She isn't interested in dating, all that. We find out that her not being able to build on the property and her not being able to live on the property
It's
is
because they
because,
signed that paper where she
well,
wasn't allowed to do that until it's paid off.
when she sold her house in Las Vegas, almost everything that she made from that house sale, and remember, she used to work in real estate,
And she's good at it.
went to Robin's house.
Oh, no.
So, what we think is happening with this piece of property now is Janelle has called him out on it publicly. Janelle did all of their taxes. Janelle knew how much money was spent on every single person, and all of the kids, her kids, Christine's kids, Leon, all of them say no one had it worse than Janelle.
Well, if you watch the seasons, like he's neglectful to Mary, but he's cruel to Janelle.
Mhm.
Like the way he talks to her and about her and treats her kids,
Mhm.
like it's despicable.
He never wanted to work, and he wanted to find a wife that had a great work ethic to keep him and everybody else up, and that was Janelle. He found that in her, and that was why he was attracted to her. That's what he wanted, and he doesn't care to tell you that. He has
Well,
said
and
in a lot of
he says
like that's
horrible
his
things
business
about
partner.
her. He says horrible things about her, like how she's not attractive to him. Like he said that early on, and they had this like farce of a date in season 1 where he tries to go and like spend the night camping with her, and you can tell it is so awkward for her. Like
Yeah.
it is not her norm.
So we think she is now claiming her pound of flesh. And
Good.
okay, you took my money away from me to go to her in her house and left me with nothing, living in a camper, living in a one-bedroom apartment.
And the
Okay.
other mom's living in a one-bedroom apartment. Like, she's good friends with Christine and has been all the way along because they
Yeah.
take care of each other's kids.
Well, what we think is happening is this is an investment property at this point because there's no 4 wives. There were 5 pieces of property for 5 people, and now there's only 2 people that live monogamously. So,
And they have a piece of property. They have a house.
yes, they are going to use this as an investment property, and now he's going to have to share any profits that he makes from this with her.
I'm surprised she's sharing it with him at all if her name's on the deed.
I am too. Well, it's both of them. Both of them. It is Cody Brown and Janelle Brown. But there is just so much drama surrounding this family. I highly suggest watching Gwendolyn Brown's YouTube channel. She releases a new reaction video every Friday, and it is just wonderful. There's also a YouTube channel called Without a Crystal Ball by Katie Joy that it does a fantastic deep dive into cult families.
You
So
sent
she
that
does a
one to me and I
lot.
haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, she does a lot with the Browns and the Duggars. But
There's a new
man,
series on Amazon about the Duggars called Shiny Happy People.
yes,
I haven't seen it yet, and I'm a little bit scared too. Like, I think
you
it's going to
have
be
to.
intense.
Okay,
I think it's going to be intense.
there were 2 points that I got a little frustrated and upset. It was a very good docu-series. I highly suggest it. But they kind of there's like an entire episode that's like homeschool families only homeschool to brainwash their kids.
Which is not fair.
It's not, but that's also been their experience. And that's part of the ATI.
Well, and I know families who've left ATI and still homeschool. And like
Yeah.
part of why I'm nervous to watch it is because I have 2 or 3 friends who were in ATI. They grew up in that community. And for a short season, my parents considered seeking out ATI and joining it, which thank God they didn't. They saw the light before that point and realized, oh, this is actually a cult. But there's still so much, like, there's just a lot of trauma associated with that. And not all of it is mine, but I have like close friend trauma that I know of, and I don't want to like relive. And so it's going to be a while before I can watch that one. Honestly, I think it's good. I'm glad it's out there. I'm glad people are seeing it. I'm glad people are understanding it. I am concerned about how they're presenting homeschooling in general, because there are so many different reasons to homeschool. Like,
and different curriculums. We don't have to use the ATI curriculum.
Exactly. ATI is one of hundreds of curriculums. And you can come at this from any religious viewpoint that you want to. Like, it's not just for religious people. There's tons and tons of secular people homeschooling. Anyway,
yes,
that's a side note. But I got on that because you mentioned Without a Crystal Ball. And I haven't watched those yet, and I want to. But at the same time, I'm kind of like holding myself back a little bit because I haven't watched that docuseries yet. And I'm nervous too. I'm also nervous because a lot of the people I've been following, like on social media, are really hard on the Duggar girl who talks out in it. Like, they're really mean to her. And I'm like, y'all, no, don't be mean to her. She was a victim in this, and she's trying to help correct it. Like, don't be mean to her. Like, makes me very
and man,
frustrated.
the trauma that she's had to go through. Like, not just growing
Trauma
up in a
on
cult.
trauma on trauma.
That
on
is
trauma.
horrible. But then having your dad tell you that you don't have a choice but to publicly forgive your brother that raped you. Holy cow. Having your father steal your money from you and making you sign away your life to him.
Which is
that
so
came
common.
out of the series.
It's so common. It's so
But like,
common.
oh my gosh, it's just,
Well, it
and
makes
that's
all kinds of
basically
sense why
what's
she moved
happened.
a whole country away from them.
Yeah.
I would jump all over moving a whole country away from them as soon as I could. Because so many people were like, isn't that dangerous? Why is she doing that? Why is she going to do something so dangerous? She's trying to get away from them.
Yeah. But they, like, TLC is getting a really bad reputation because,
They're only showing the shiny, happy parts of all of these people.
well, even beyond that, a lot of their shows focus on children. John and Kate plus 8 had the 8 kids. Little People Big World, there were 3 kids. 4 kids. There were 4 kids. Sister Wives has 18, 19 kids and counting. The title is literally 19 kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, and didn't they do that other ATI
then,
family, the Bates?
Oh yeah, Bringing Up Bates, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I've heard from other people that are in IBLP that they are actually like genuinely good people.
I've heard that too. Yeah, I've heard they're actually really great people. I've also heard that they don't follow IBLP as closely.
Yeah.
Like they aren't as cultish
Yeah.
about it.
And like if you guys aren't familiar, IBLP and ATI are the same things. They're kind of like
They're extensions of each
interchangeable.
other.
Yeah.
They're extensions of each other. ATI
Um,
is like the older teaching university that's associated with IBLP.
yeah. But, you know, all of these things focus really on the kids, or at least the kids are a big part of it. None of the kids make a penny. There are no contracts with the kids. That's why the Brown family can now come out and they don't have an NDA. They don't get any money. Like I was telling Diana the other day, I feel like if I was a producer with TLC,
Mm-hmm.
as kids are starting to hit 18,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to approach them and say, here is this lump sum of money if you choose it.
Mm-hmm.
And this will help you get started in your life. Or we can pay you this much money over the course of this many years if that's what you want to do, kind of like the lottery. Do you want the lump sum or do you want it now? And sign this NDA for me. That is a lifetime NDA.
They're too cheap.
And they're not doing that.
Nope. For none of these people. For none of these
Yeah.
people. That's why Jill can do what she's doing too, because she doesn't have an NDA. None of those
Like,
kids have an NDA.
None of them. And I'm just like, what the heck? Guys, how is this falling through the cracks? Because you aren't going to have all Logans that are like, you know what?
I just
I
don't want
have
any part
trauma
of it.
here
Mhm.
and I'm done with you and don't ever speak to me again. Don't ever come to me again. I'm
Nope.
done with all of you.
No, you're going to have a lot of Peytons.
And it's like, oof, yeah, you're going to have Peyton Brown that comes out in his shirt that says, what does the nanny do? And he's like, wow. While he's wearing his What Does the Nanny Do shirt, which is a famous quote from Christine about Robin's nanny from season 16, he's like, you know what? A true head of the household, a true man of the house doesn't have to say, I'm the man of the house.
Right. Right.
I'm the head of my household.
Loudly. Uh-huh.
You just
Loudly and
live your
repeatedly.
life and people see it.
Mhm.
He said, my mother doesn't have to say I'm a strong, independent woman because you can look at her and see she's a strong, independent woman.
Mhm. I can't remember. Peyton is Janelle.
Peyton is Christine.
Christine's. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, that's how you should live your life. If you're constantly having to scream, I'm macho, I'm the man of the house, I'm the head of this household.
I love it.
Guess what, honey? You're not.
You're not. No. No. I don't want to be derogatory to people, but the way that it's like it appears, the way that it looks, especially since stuff's come out, is Robin is the head of that house.
Oh, yeah.
And that whole family. And she has strategically put herself in places all the way along the line. And like when you watch, you can tell that there is tension with Christine about Robin.
Mhm.
And she is trying. She's trying very hard, Christine is, for the benefit of the family. But you can tell that, like, once Robin came in, her relationship with Cody deteriorated very quickly. And there was so much contention after Robin came into the family and so much upheaval. Like, they just lived their life until Robin came in the family. Just saw on the news when I was like Googling all those things, some more stuff popped up, of course, because it's like, oh, you're interested in this.
Yeah.
That he's announced his engagement to another wife.
I've not seen this.
Yeah, he's announced his engagement to another wife, and she's mega young.
Young. Yeah,
Young,
because that
mega
was the
young.
goal. The goal was he wanted very, very young, and he wanted someone that needed a green card.
Did he like out loud say that?
No, but he went to
So that
different
they're completely
countries
dependent
multiple
on him.
times to court.
So that
Yes.
they're completely dependent. Oh, that's so gross.
But
That is
then
so
people were also
gross.
like, that would put them at a lot of risk, put the female at a lot of risk. And so they didn't think that they could. But he knew he wanted FLDS. And sorry, I'm 100%
And maybe I'm
looking
jumping the
this.
gun, but like I really think I saw that the other night. That he's like, is either courting or engaged to
I think he
someone.
might still be courting
Okay.
because when I Google Cody Brown engagement, all I'm seeing is him talking about Christine's engagement.
Maybe it's courting then because it said that it was like very
Yes. There is one girl who is about 19, 20 years old that he has been courting for a little while, but nobody knows anything else about her. But him and Robin have made several trips to Vegas, and there is a rumor that they are moving to Vegas.
I'm sorry, I'm so grossed out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do they still have a show?
They do.
Because it's basically just
It's about to implode on itself.
it's got
So
to. It's got to, right? And I feel like that's part of the push to get another person
yeah.
brought in is so that they can
Yeah.
maintain their income because this is their whole income at this point.
Yeah.
And they've not
Robin has a
invested
spending
wisely.
issue.
They've not invested wisely.
No. If you talk to Robin's ex-husband's family or him, they tell you Robin has a serious, serious shopping addiction. Like, not a joke, not a, like, this is just something that we're saying, a genuine addiction to the point she would spend all of their money and hide stuff in a shed outside their house and tell the kids, we can only bring this in 2 or 3 pieces at a time so your dad doesn't find out. And then if you look at video or pictures of their house in Flagstaff, you see like these really weird trinkets everywhere all the time. You see on the Halloween episode from season 17, they open up their like side door where their pantry is. And there is a ton of really weird stuff. And if you watch closely enough, you see shopping bags all the time.
I noticed that, but I didn't think anything of it. Like, I don't even watch that often.
I'm 100% a maximalist. Like, I would love to be a minimalist, but I am accepting that I'm a maximalist.
Uh-huh.
And like right now, I'm looking at a pile of clothes on top of stuff that I don't even know what's under there.
Mhm.
I genuinely have no idea what's under there. That's about as tall as I am. I recognize this about me, and even I think that's too much stuff. So there's also Mr. Peyton Brown, going back to him for a second. He talked a little too much in an interview one time, not that long ago, which is what kind of sparked Gwendolyn to come out and Mykelti. He accused Mary of being physically abusive. to the
I've wondered.
kids.
Honestly, I've wondered. Like,
And
she's harsh.
yeah, Gwendolyn was like, no, that never happened. He's a liar. Like, you can't
It
trust
may have
anything
never
he's saying.
happened to her.
Yes. And she's like,
That
I
doesn't mean
remember
it didn't
one
happen to
time.
someone else.
Yeah. She's like, I remember one time I saw her slap McKelty's face. But McKelty kind of deserved it. And then McKelty came out and was like, okay, yeah, but I forgive her and I understand that I was just being like a mouthy teenager. I deserved it. I don't like this happens a lot. But
I struggle
Mary,
with that. I struggle with that. Like, okay, full on disclosure, we practice spanking, but we are exceptionally intentional about it. And there is a definite cutoff point of you're old enough now, you don't get spanked at all. And
and you
were
don't
like,
spank in the face. Like, you don't slap
never,
your kid's face.
never. I don't spank their face. I don't hit their arms. I don't hit their back. I don't hit their hands. I don't hit. There's very specific conditions, very specific. Like, we have a whole, I'm not trying to make it sound weird. We have a ritual around it, so they know this is the place it happens. It's not going to be unexpected. Like, I'm not just going to come at you out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's very regimented if we spank. And we haven't spanked in years, you guys. And we even never, when we were, it wasn't a common thing. Like, it's not a regular thing. That's not spanking. Smacking a kid across the face is not spanking.
Yeah.
That's not an acceptable form of discipline.
It's not a correction.
No, that's a reaction out of anger. Like, that is not correction. That is a reaction out of anger. And that's something we were very serious about with when and if we spanked, it is not going to come out of anger. Like, we cannot do that. And if I can't do it when it's not out of anger, I'm not going to do it at all. You know, like, we're just very, very careful about it. So I do think spanking can be used in a certain window in a very careful way, but that's not spanking. That's not discipline. That's abuse.
Yeah. Maddie has come out since then. It happened a little before, but it was kind of covered up quickly. She did not accuse Mary of physical abuse. She accused her of financial abuse. And, you know, they are all part of a pyramid scheme. And like, I could talk all day about MLMs, but they're all part of the MLM Plexus or LuLaRoe. All of them are part of one of them. And
or both.
Yeah. Mary is one of the top.
Okay?
I think you're good. Mary does LuLaRoe. She's a top seller for LuLaRoe. Can't believe she wasn't in LuLaRich, but that's a whole other thing. Also, highly suggest watching. Great miniseries. But then Maddie was involved, and she was one of her undersellers. And she has accused Mary of stealing a lot of money from her. So, lots of abuse allegations, lots of just allegations in general. Family isn't talking to each other anymore. All of the kids are still close. But other than Christine's kids talking to Christine's kids still talk to Janelle. Janelle's kids still talk to Christine. Nobody talks to anybody. Nobody's close with Robin's kids anymore.
Well, because Robin cut them off.
Yeah.
It's not because they don't like her kids. It's because Robin cut them off from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not a kid issue. It's a Robin issue.
Yeah.
Because you can watch Gwendolyn and she's like, I miss them.
Yeah.
Like, she said it just I only watched a few of those. And in the one where they were talking about the kids, she's like, oh, I miss them. And the scene. And it was genuine. Like,
yeah.
That's rough.
This show is a dumpster fire in the best possible way for me. Like, oh man, for the kids that actually had to live this lifestyle.
No, it's
horrible. Absolutely, like, atrocious. But I want this. Like, we know we get at least one more season. We know that they are currently filming. We know we get one more season. of everybody else leaving. However,
The rest of the destruction.
I want Christine and Janelle to get their own show.
Yes.
I don't care about Mary.
Yes.
I've never really liked Mary. Let's just come on out. I've never
That's
liked
why I
Mary.
said I could be some of their friends.
I've never liked Robin. Things that are coming out about both of them now, like, and Mary wanted to do this big Valentine's Day thing at her Airbnb, or not Airbnb, her B&B in Parowan, Utah. It was charging like $5,000, and you wouldn't even get to stay in the town. It's
Not shocked.
ridiculous.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
But-
I agree, but I'm not shocked.
Yeah, Christine and Janelle. And like Christine, I'm so happy for her. She's engaged. She's bought a house, and like she's excited to get to go buy wedding dresses. Oh, the
I'm really
episode
curious about,
Uh-huh.
like, I would love to hear where they are with their religion now. Like Christine and Janelle and Mary. Like, where are they as far as, well, I'm no longer part of this marriage that I spent so much energy on. Have they just, are they converting
Janelle?
away from LSD? Are they
LDS.
LDS?
I would go to LSD if I was in this marriage.
It'd be pushing you to it, right? Like, oh my gosh, sorry.
I
Are they
think from
converting away
what
from LDS, or are they just not extremists anymore? Have they decided that they're not part of that part of the community, and they've gone back to like a regular type of Mormon
yeah.
convictions, or have they just given up? Like, are they planning on having plural marriage with somebody else? Like, how does this work for them?
I
Because
think
that's part of
everyone-
why they were in that to start with, was because they were so
The
convicted
religion.
that this was how they get to heaven.
From what I've heard from the kids and them talking, Robin is still very much a polygamist and she wants more wives.
Mhm.
Janelle still believes in the faith. My computer's about to die. Janelle still believes in the faith, but doesn't want to spend any more time with Cody or Robin. Mary is like having a crisis of faith, and where she's not known really how she feels or what she believes for years now. Christine seems to be like questioning things, but until she decides exactly how she feels, I think she's following more actual like Latter-day Saints or LDS, not FLDS.
Right.
Like until she decides how she feels.
That's, I guess, like, that part is sad for me.
Yeah.
Because, again, like, there's no grace. There's no grace in this context. There's no grace for infertility. There's no grace for broken relationships. There's no grace in this world of the FLDS.
FLDS.
There's no grace in that world. Like, hypothetically, what if you end up with 2 wives and you can't find a third? Nobody goes to heaven, or at least that part of heaven. Like, not even your kids. Even if you have enough kids, but you only have 2 wives. I don't know. It's just really weird. Have you watched, okay, changing topics a little bit. Have you watched 3 Wives, 1 Husband?
No.
I don't know if it's still available
You've suggested
on
it for years, but
I don't know if it's still available on Netflix, but there's only 1 season. And it gives you a look at not exactly what I considered FLDS, but much closer to what is the more understood idea of FLDS. And it's like this mix between sister wives and the people who get arrested on TV. Like, it's like this weird middle ground.
yeah.
I don't know, guys. I think one of the things that I come back to a lot is, and obviously we're a Christian podcast and we're Christian moms, but like in scripture, we see evidences of polygamy,
Mhm.
but it's never good.
Yeah.
It's never
Never ends well.
never, ever, ever good. Like one of the ones I think about, and he has wives that are considered really great people, is David. And
Yeah.
he ends up with kids that kill and rape each other, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
Kids that try to kill him.
yeah, kids that try to usurp him in his kingdom. Kids that like tear down his reputation on purpose, and they literally kill and rape their siblings.
Yeah.
Like, never ever is it a good thing, and never ever is it something that is like commended by God. Like, it's something that's like condoned. Like, if you're gonna do this, then you need to do it fairly. But it's
Mhm.
never something where God's like, oh, hey, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
And as much as I hate to see the breakdown of these families and the trauma that these kids have gone through, in some ways, I feel like it's kind of good to watch it go to this conclusion.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, yeah, this is not a healthy way to live. This is not a healthy setup, the way that they were doing it. And so this is kind of the logical end. Even though it's horrible and sad and I don't like it for these people, this is kind of like the logical end of this polygamous relationship.
Yeah.
I don't
Like,
know.
of course, it would end up here.
Well, yeah, and not that I want that for anyone, but I'm also kind of not surprised.
Yeah. Especially with a guy like Cody.
Right.
How
Like,
did he find 4 women willing to marry him?
it had to be the wives. I think it was the wives. They just saw the wives.
Yeah.
But like, it's funny to me because they've had friends on the show, and I've gone, that family would be way better for this
Yeah.
show because they have way more longevity
Yeah.
than this family. Like, they would make so much more sense. There's been a couple of families that they've had on there, and I was like, why don't they have a show? Because they're going to have way more longevity. And do you think TLC kind of was like, are they just riding the bus because people
Yeah.
like watching it fall apart? Or
Yeah.
do you think that they saw that it was going to fall apart and they're like, we're just going to ride this until it falls apart? Like, I don't know. Like,
I don't know. I've heard that, like, the church told him not to, and that somebody went to TLC and was like, this is the worst possible family to watch. What are you thinking?
this is the worst possible representation that you can have.
And they were like, really?
They like the drama.
Really?
TLC likes the drama. Oh my
Oh,
word.
goodness. But we probably need to wrap. I
Yeah,
could
I
talk
gotta
about
go.
this all day long. I love this. And this is just one show, man. This
Yeah.
isn't even like all of the ones I watch. I could talk all day about Matt Roloff too, but that's a whole other.
I don't know what that is.
He is the dad from Little People Big World.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never
But
really got into that one.
I really, really enjoyed it. And then I started rewatching it as an adult. Obviously, it came out when I was a kid because me and the twins are about the same age.
Okay.
And so I rewatched it as an adult and I was like, this is a train wreck. He is a narcissist if I've ever seen a narcissist. I want to punch him. But yeah. Anyway, thank you for talking about this with
You're
me.
welcome.
And
It
thank
was
you
fun.
guys
It was
for
a fun
watching.
conversation.
I love it. Find yourself a train wreck to watch.
It makes your life seem so much healthier.
Yes. Pick anything on TLC and you're good to go. I've also heard Vanderpump Rules. I need to get into this because there's so much drama around it now. And people are like, if you like this, you'll love this. I don't either. I've just heard people talk about it. And like, apparently there's an affair. And then this guy's like, well, yeah, I knew about the affair, but who am I to say? Like, you are her best friend. That's who you are. Like, if I find out that Chris is having an affair, or if I found out you were having an affair,
There'd be issues.
like, I'm gonna go to the other person and be like, I do not want to be the one to tell you this, however. Because that is, like, if I care about you, I'm gonna let you know. And he's just like, why is she mad at me? I didn't have the affair. You knew and you helped. That's why she's mad at you.
That's
But,
concealing. If you know and you don't say anything, that's concealing it. Like,
yeah.
that's an active part in it.
Yeah. But that's the whole, yeah, like I said, I could talk about this all day long, but we have lives, I suppose.
Yeah, my husband's texted me multiple times and I haven't looked at them yet. I need to look at what's going on. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why I'm getting this many texts.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you guys so much for watching or listening, however you are
Yes.
taking this in. I'm gonna yawn. Sorry. You're good.
Early morning. Well, thank you guys for coming along and listening to our obsessions. And we can't wait to talk to you next time. We're gonna have catch up next time for our month. And then after that, we're gonna be doing, I think Simplicity Parenting is after that, or
The baby shower.
baby showers. Baby showers is after that. But I would suggest if you're going to listen to Simplicity Parenting, go
Start
ahead
now.
and start because
Start
it's
now.
taken me a long time to get through it. Honestly, I still haven't finished it. It's fantastic. It's controversial in parts for sure. Like there's going to be parts that, like, obviously take your own discernment into any book we recommend and take your own family's standards and priorities into account with any book we recommend. But I'm excited to talk about it when we get to it. Probably going to vent about it a little bit when we get to it because it's intense. But until then, guys, have a beautiful week and look for the beauty in your unvarnished life this week. We love you. Bye.
Bye.